Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is MD Tech here with another quick video. In today's video, we're going to discuss Windows 10 support ending on October 14th, 2025. So, for most users of Windows 10, Windows 10 Home, Professional, they will stop receiving updates. And this will include non-security and security updates, new releases, basically any sort of patch or bug fixes. So once it reaches end of support on October 14th, 2025, it'll no longer be supported through regular updates. Now, Microsoft has said that they will offer the extended security update program for Windows 10 home users, or I should say non-commercial users. So this was a thing back with Windows 7 that they offered extended security updates, and then depending on certain enterprise programs, even earlier versions of Windows and server versions of Windows also experienced additional support. You'd have to pay for it, of course, and that's what Microsoft looks like they're setting up for Windows 10 Home and Professional editions come next year. It hasn't been finalized yet, but at the time of this recording, it hasn't been set in stone. But considering that the market usage of the Windows 10 operating system among Microsoft Windows users, I think is still about 60-70% as of the time of this recording. There's certainly an incentive to provide updates, paid updates to those users, and it's a very similar underlying operating system for Windows 10 and Windows 11, so they really don't have to probably retool the updates very much between the two operating systems. So there's certainly a component there you want to consider that if you really need Windows, you can keep paying for updates. Now, you may ask yourself, what happens if you don't pay for updates? Your computer will still work. You just will notice that over time, your system will become more vulnerable to malicious software on the internet. Like I said, there aren't any more patches being released for Windows. Now, you can use third-party antivirus software. There's still antiviruses that support Windows XP in 2024, believe it or not. I believe Avast and AVG, free antivirus, both support Windows XP. I think Trend Micro even supported Windows 2000. That was a paid software suite, but I think they supported Windows 2000 up until a few months ago, I think, which is kind of interesting if you really wanted to, know about some, off the wall sort of facts. But there's certain reasons why you probably don't want to use Windows beyond just the security updates. Once it passes 2025, browsers probably will support Windows 10 for at least a few more years. Mozilla Firefox probably will support Windows 10 until 2027 or later, and Chrome will probably be in a similar position. You do have to keep in mind there are long-term service branches of Windows 10 that I think are supported up until like 2032, something around there. So the Windows 10 architecture and kernel and everything else will still be out there. So there may be an incentive for software publishers to continue to support Windows 10 for beyond, 2, 3, 4 years. But like I said, you're probably better off from a security standpoint, upgrade as soon as possible. But it isn't mandatory. Your computer will still work. But, from a security standpoint, you shouldn't have it one day past October 14th of 2025, but as a practical matter, it'll work fine for probably several more years at a minimum. Like I said, people still use Windows XP. You can technically still use Windows XP as a daily driver, but it would be kind of very strenuous and difficult, and I can't imagine it would be a very pleasant experience, but you can. You could technically even use Windows 95 to do word processing, but who's really doing that? And that's really kind of the question. So just something to keep in mind. So support is ending next year, and we will see what kind of crisis we're looking at once that date arrives. I think that's part of the reason why Windows 12 hasn't been released yet. It's because how many people are still using Windows 10. I think Microsoft wants people to migrate over to Windows 11 because of how low the adoption has been. When you're comparing the Windows 7, Windows 8 upgrade to Windows 10, which was free, and it's still technically free, Microsoft hasn't shut down that option. It's kind of hard. How would you even really necessarily even do that at this point? But they were still providing updates, and a lot of people did move on to Windows 10 in the few years since. But just with given all the hardware requirements on Windows 11 that are very stringent, that really don't make a lot of sense in a lot of regards, unless, especially if you don't really want all these fancy AI applications and TPM requirements that really the average user doesn't really need or want. Then it's kind of like, why do you feel the need to upgrade and spend another $400 or $500+ on a new computer? Especially older computers work fine and they're very good, very expensive computers too, and they're not going to support Windows 11 or Windows 12. So that'll be an interesting time. It'll be interesting if Windows 12 pulled back some of their system requirements to upgrade, but I don't get the feeling that Microsoft is going to do that. I think that a lot of computer manufacturers were probably disappointed with Microsoft about pushing Windows 10 as a free update, because traditionally people would have to go buy a new computer and it would come with a new version of Windows. Now you could upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and you got all this extra support, and you didn't have really a need to go buy a new computer at that point. So, I think Microsoft probably has their hands tied a little bit here, and then they're like, okay, we're going to push up really difficult hardware requirements for the next version of Windows, which happened to be Windows 11, and probably subsequent versions too. We'll see, but that remains to be said. We will see where Microsoft is. They kind of change by the month, by the day. New information comes out, so we'll see. But anyway, just wanted to make a brief video on the subject. Hope I was able to give you guys some information that was useful, and I look forward to catching you all in the next video. Goodbye.